Welcome to our first series of our Legal Sense Edu-series between Marianne and I. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your day here on Saturday to join us. A little bit about ourselves. So my name is Colleen Robinson. I'm an attorney here in town. I also have an office in Temecula as well, and my firm is called Landon Rainwater Robinson, and I'm the Robinson of that, so I'm a partner there as well. And I've been an attorney for the past 13 years, appearing all over Southern California, helping families in family law, that's with divorces and custody and those kinds of things. And then I focus solely on just doing estate planning. So estate planning is wills, trusts, power of attorneys, but I focus on more than just the documents that I create, because estate planning isn't done for ourselves, it's done for the people that we love. But a great estate plan, especially when you're partnered up with your success circle with financial planners and other professionals, it supports you while you're living, and then it's there for those that you love when you pass away. So I'll let Marianne, I know a lot of you already know her, but to introduce herself.
Marianne Nolte, Imagine Financial Services. I'm a certified financial planner here in Fallbrook. I operate virtually, in person, whatever a person's comfortable with nowadays. I'm actually going to go ahead and toss it right back to Colleen. I'm going to let you get into your part of the presentation. And I'm so glad everybody joined us today. Thank you so very much. And, oh, hey, just quick housekeeping. If anybody's got a cell phone on, if you can take it to the mute. And then also the ladies and gentlemen's room is right here. We do have a gentlemen's room in the women's club.
So I just wanted to show you kind of where we're going. Oh, here's some fun disclaimers, because, you know,
there's a lawyer.
Yeah, there's me. I tend to be the black crow in the crowd, but it's all necessary. So just to kind of go over where we're going for today and what we're even talking about, why it's important. So I'll go over the general purpose, kind of what sparked this idea of talking about raising money-wise kids, and how estate planning and financial planning can do that. Because I hope that at the end of today that you'll see that estate planning isn't something for when we retire or when we're elderly. It's something that we need to do now, and there's tools that could support our kids at whatever age they are, both financial and estate planning, to support our children to making better financial decisions in the future. So I'll be talking about that, and have you thought about how you're going to leave money to your children, whether they're little kids or whether they're adult children. Some estate planning basics, because I know a lot of people don't understand the difference between a will and a trust, for example, so we'll go over that real quick. And then what a financial mentorship trust is. And then I know that Marianne's got a couple things here too that she'll talk about, creating your financial circle, financial planning, the Super Fund Secure Act of 2019, and some tips and tricks that she has that are super, super great. So just to get started as to what really prompted this, not even just in my own experience as a lawyer appearing all over Southern California and talking to hundreds and hundreds of families, but just, and I'm not a financial planner or a CPA. I know it's kind of hard to read back here, but these are scary financial facts that were taken off of a study that about 74% of teens don't feel comfortable about financial education, whatever that may mean, like not understanding how to balance a checkbook, understanding interest rates with a credit card. 40% of teens don't know what a 401k is. 32% of teens don't know the difference between a credit and a debit card. 1 in 3 Americans delay major decisions due to finances. 4 out of 5 parents wish they had learned more about money as a kid and they could bestow that upon their own children. And 59% of parents are uncomfortable speaking about money to their children. So something that I always encourage my clients to do is not to keep these issues in the dark with their kids, especially with their adult kids. I don't know if it's a generational thing, but there's a lot of what I call it like cloak and dagger when it comes to finances, when it comes to estate planning. And it's so crucial to start talking about these things, and these statistics show that as well. So my question for you is, have you guys thought about how you would leave your money to your children? Would you just, and a lot of people, if they don't have an estate plan, maybe you've never thought about it before, but there's a lot of different options that are available, such as outright distribution. Like when they get to a certain age, you just get all of the money at one time, whatever that amount of money may be. If it's a couple $100s, couple $1,000s, millions of dollars, you can structure it however you want to do that. So do you think if you're inclined to do something like that, the question I have is, will your kids be ready to handle that money? Are they going to be prepared? Will they make the right financial decisions? And depending on your estate plan, your children could wind up inheriting money at the age of 18 just outright. And is that something you're okay with? Do you think that they would make great decisions? Do you think they would make great decisions at 21 or 25 or even 30 or even older than that? I mean, we all know our kids better than anybody else, but there are certainly ways to structure it so that they can make the best decisions. So a couple of things about outright distribution. So if children, and when I say children, children could be anybody at any age, right? So is the problem with outright distribution is that they could lose the money to creditors, divorce, bad financial decisions, bankruptcy, and there's no guidance, there's no support. And statistics and studies have shown that over half, when people inherit money, they spend half of it. So is that something that you're okay with? Is there other things that we could do that perhaps protect the money that you're giving to your children so they're using it wiser, and that they're getting that kind of guidance and support that they can make better financial decisions with it? So this is where we'll go to a little bit of estate planning 101, because when I start talking about some tools that you could use, if you don't understand the basics and how they're utilized, then it falls upon deaf ears. So here are the two most common options. That are really, the other option that's not listed here is having no plan at all. So a will and a trust. So a will is a document that you sign. It's a legal document that you sign that is monitored and distributed in court, in the probate court. So it is overlooked by a judge, and the judge is the ultimate say-so, and he or she signs off on the order for distribution. The other option that we have is called a trust. And what a trust is, it's also a legal document. It's a legal contract that you write between yourself and the trustee to own your assets for the benefit of your beneficiaries. While you're living, in most cases, you are the trustor. You're the person writing the trust, creating the trust. You're also the trustee. You're the one holding the assets, and you're also the beneficiary. So while you're living, you're all three of those things. But when you pass, you give the reins to somebody else to manage those assets, to distribute them or manage them for your beneficiaries, whoever those may be. So the role of the probate court, and I'll get to this on the next slide, is that with a trust, when it's done correctly, there is no probate court that's involved with that. And one of the things that people don't understand is that a probate process, even for a non-complicated estate, so let's say you own a house and you've got some retirement accounts, it takes approximately 1 to 2 years to go through the probate process. So what I tell people when I'm doing these speaking events is that anytime, really it's across the board, it's not even talking about estate planning. When you hear the word court, you can say to yourself CCD. That's cost, conflict, and delay. So cost, and we'll get to that on the next slide, or actually I have it right here. The average cost of probate is approximately 5% of your estate. So in Riverside, California, and I know this just because I'm in a BNI group there, and there's a real estate agent there who's given me the statistics, the average value of a home in Riverside is approximately, or was $600,000. The cost that's associated with probate is 5% of the estate. So if you took a $600,000 house and it was completely paid off, the cost of that estate going through probate would be approximately $30,000. So that's $30,000 are not going to your kids or your loved ones. And then conflict, even if there's nobody fighting about it, everybody's on the same page and on how things are written in the will, and there's no issues with that. It's the internal conflict too. It's stressful going to court, and probate, because I know this from personal experience, is not a user-friendly court. It's very, very technical, even for attorneys. So those are the things just to keep in mind when we talk about the probate system. So this is the average life cycle of a probate case and what happens here, and we kind of already talked about this, but we have here somebody passing away, and by the way, all the accounts are frozen when that happens. So if you had a house that the mortgage needed to be paid upon, no one can access those accounts to pay for it when you're going through the probate system until a judge authorizes access to those bank accounts. So unless you have a beneficiary that's able to pay the mortgage, if you have a house, pay the mortgage and the expenses associated with the house, there's a lot of times where homes are put in almost into foreclosure, or they're going to foreclosure because they haven't been paid for until the executors are allowed to touch those accounts. So this also goes to, it becomes very public because you're required to put a legal notice in the newspaper, and as soon as that hits, whoever's listed as the executor starts getting bombarded by phone calls through like real estate agents, through all kinds of other professionals that are associated. You get a court order that's just appointing the executor. They then have to it's called marshaling the assets, gathering all the assets to figure out what's even out there. They have to sell real estate. And then we have the payout over here. And most of the time, the beneficiaries are coming last. That's last after attorneys that are getting paid, executors that are getting paid. There's a probate referee that gets involved. It's all the other fees that are accounted for. And really, the probate system is designed to benefit creditors rather than the beneficiaries, because a probate case has to be open for a statutory period of time to allow creditors to file their creditors' claims. So, and then down here you can't see it, but like the beneficiaries are last in terms of payout, and if you have an 18-year-old kid, they're just getting their whole distribution at the age of 18. So I had here, a minimum is 1 year, it's more likely it's more over a year, and the fees, 2.5%, it's very, very conservative. I've seen it even higher than 5%. So that is just a little crash course into the probate system here. So then what is a trust? A trust, as I already mentioned before, it's a legal document that you create while you're living, and it avoids probate court. And by making sure that you have it always updated and that your assets are where they're supposed to be in relation to your trust. But what you can do with a trust, there's so many different options that are available to make sure that your beneficiaries are taken care of. They're easy to change. You can revoke it whenever you want. If you had special needs children, it's a great tool to make sure that they're taken care of too and being able to stay on their benefits. You can personalize distributions and provisions for whomever, and I always try to make them as personal as possible to my clients' families. It's easy to move assets in and out of these trusts, a revocable trust, and you can add in additional provisions and tools to help out your beneficiaries, which we're going to talk about next. And that can save the assets that you put in here from bankruptcy, divorce, and judgments, liens, all those kinds of things as well. So as I mentioned before, trusts avoid probate. However, there's always homework to be done on it. It's not just a one and done document that you get it all drafted, you sign it, then you get your fancy binder, you stick it in your bookshelf or your safety deposit box. We got to pull those suckers out at least every 3 years. We need to review them. And most importantly, as I mentioned before, is making sure that the assets that you have are where they need to be in relation to your trust. Because when they're not, that's where problems lie and families wind up in probate court. And I find that the most heartbreaking because somebody has paid for an estate plan to be done to prevent that from happening. And because I'll give you an example. It's a better example than me saying it. I have a client who is the successor trustee to her parents' trust. And one of their largest assets, her parents' largest assets, was a retirement account. And her stepfather believed, because it was mentioned on one of the schedules, so on this document within the trust, their retirement accounts were listed there, then that's all he needed to do. The problem was that once they both passed away, those accounts were still held in the name of her parents, which is a problem. That's what goes through probate court. So now, as a successor trustee, she's still having to go to probate court to move those assets to be distributed by the trust. It has cost her approximately $40,000 to do that, and the relationship with her sister, because her sister saw that as an open door to now try to contest her parents' trust. She wasn't successful, but it still caused even further delay in just getting these accounts to be distributed as her parents wanted to. So as long as they're reviewed and they're updated, then it absolutely avoids probate. So using that is how can we set up our children for financial success? And this is with the Financial Mentorship Trust, or it's also called the Lifetime Asset Protection Trust. So what is this? So the purpose of this is to teach your children financial responsibility. So instead of doing an outright distribution to your children, you actually give that money in trust to your kids. And what that means is that it's protected, the assets are protected, and you have further options that they become co-trustees of the money or of their own trust account, meaning that they can learn from somebody how to manage that money. So if you had your successor trustee was someone who was really financially responsible, they could teach them how to manage and how to invest the money, and then they could eventually grow into the role of being sole trustee of their own trust account. So creating a strong financial future starts with a strong foundation. This protects inheritance, because as I mentioned before, when people inherit money, they spend half of it. They're like right out the door, they spend half of it. And then by doing a financial mentorship trust, it gives your kids the ability to learn how to manage money, and then eventually to be able to do that on their own when they become sole trustees. If they became sole trustees of their own account, maybe it's just better to have them work in tandem with their co-trustee on that account. Is everybody with me so far? Does that make sense? Okay. So where do you start? So one is your own estate plan. Do you have an estate plan? Has it been updated? Have you taken down off your bookshelf? Have we dusted it off? Have we looked under the covers to see what's been going on? How are your kids being cared for in your estate plan? How are they receiving any of the assets that you've been working so hard for? Who are the trustees that you have listed? And then, as I mentioned before, is it properly funded? It's more than just the house that's in your trust and how it relates to your trust. So there are your bank accounts you have to take into account or into consideration, your investment accounts, so that they all flow into your trust. And lastly is creating a financial success team. So that successor trustee that would be taking care of your children or taking care of your beneficiaries, if you're going to establish a financial mentorship trust, it's thinking, what type of person should that be? Should that person be like a coach, an advisor, an educator? Because the idea is that they would be teaching your kids how to manage these monies so that they can do that eventually on their own without their assistance. Who else can you bring into your circle for financial success? And it's funny because we've got somebody here that's very knowledgeable. So if you're looking to create the tools for your own, to create your money smart kids, what are your next steps? So one is to come to my office, come speak with me, and do what I call a family wealth planning session. And we sit down and we go through whether you have a pre-existing plan or you need to create one. I get to know you, your assets, your children, your family dynamics, and we create something that is going to protect what's most important to you and leave a legacy behind that you're proud of, whatever that means to you as well. And if you have a pre-existing plan, then in either way, if you don't have anything or if you do, we inventory your assets that you and your family have. We create a plan for those so nothing gets lost if something happens to you. And if your plan has holes in it, then we'll figure that out and how to fix those holes. and put in safeguards if you want to create like a financial mentorship trust as well. And the value of my financial planning or wealth planning sessions are generally $750, but for the attendees today, I will waive that if you come talk to me afterwards. And we could do that virtually, or we could do it here. I use a conference room down on Main Street. So I would love to meet with you and learn more about your families. So at this point, I'm going to turn it right over to Marianne.
Thanks, Colleen.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Go ahead. So I'm so happy that Colleen brought to everybody's attention the fact that when you're working with your estate plan, your finances, it's a whole team that's involved in managing your money. As a financial planner, I do the investments, and I'm coaching people about how to interact with their money in a successful way so that they are aligning their financial resources with what's truly important to them. So that's really key, but what is also key is that finances aren't just about your 401k account or your IRA account or your bank account. It's about the impact of all of the other elements that touch on a financial plan. So you have your estate plans and those documents, and how are you going to leave that legacy to your heirs? And how is that money going to take care of you in your lifetime so that when you have your own smaller kids, that you're able to financially fund the lifestyle that you're hoping to build for them. So you've got your estate planning, you've got your tax element. So taxes are really important. You know, your tax professional is going to be working on April 15th deadline. They want to get that taken care of. So that's what they really focus on. Your tax pro is going to be talking about what has happened in this past year. They're documenting for you and for the IRS. But with financial planning, you also want to be thinking ahead tax-wise. How is this going to impact you in retirement? How is your money going to be working for you or not working for you if it's getting taken by the tax man? Insurance planning is very important. Insurance, sometimes people just think, oh, health insurance, life insurance. Well, there's a lot of insurance out there. There's umbrella policies to keep you protected. There are homeowners policies, auto policies. And so you really want to be able to be thinking about all of these elements about your money, because they all bottom line impact how much you keep in your pocket at the end of the month. And that's really important. So I call that the financial professional circle. It's all of the key players that come together to support you. And your financial advisor, that's at the core, because that's the money, but then these experts are here to help facilitate with the estate planning, with the insurance, with tax planning. So that's your professional circle. And like I can see anything without the old lady glasses. So with financial planning, you want to create both a short-term and a long-term goals. So what's going on in my financial life right now, short-term with the next, within the next year or two, maybe 3 years. Then you also want to be thinking long-term for your retirement years. And again, you want to make sure you're thinking of the tax implications both today and in the future. And distributions versus the different types of accounts. So you have your 401k accounts, 403b if you're an educator or in the public sector or in the nonprofit sector, and IRAs, Roth IRAs, how all these work in comparison to just an individual account, and how that's going to be taxed either today or it's going to be bumped off and tax is going to be deferred over time until retirement. And then we've got proper insurance planning. We've talked about that. So the Secure Act of 2019. This is interesting. This kind of goes hand in hand with estate planning. So for those that have an IRA account or a 401k account, those types of qualified plans, and IRA is kind of on the fence. It wants to be a qualified plan, but that's a different topic. It acts like a qualified plan. These types of accounts grow tax deferred in your years while you're accumulating funds, while you're working. And when they grow tax deferred like that, good old Uncle Sam says, well, we've been giving you this free ride and letting you roll your taxes over year after year after year, and your account has bloomed, and now in retirement, you're going to have enough money to support yourself. But here's the catch. In retirement, we're going to have you start taking required minimum distributions, RMDs. And they force you to take money out of your account. It's a little bit less than 4% each year of your account value. And so most people are like, well, that's okay. I need that money as an income stream to support myself in retirement. So people understand that, but they're not always prepared for the tax implication that's involved with taking money out. They're collecting Social Security, maybe they've got some rental property income or something else that's gonna, when they take that RMD out, it might bump them into a higher tax bracket. So that's why I was saying you wanna be thinking about the taxes, not just today, but how it's gonna hit you down the road. And so when the 2019 Secure Act hit, it eliminated what was called a stretch IRA. So it used to be that if you had an IRA or a 401k, you could, and you had beneficiaries on your accounts that were going to inherit from you or through your estate plan, through your will and trust, they were going to inherit this account from you at your passing. They could then stretch it out over their lifetime. They could stretch out the required minimum distributions. And the account could actually end up getting passed down from generation to generation. Well, Secure Act put a kibosh on that and said, you've got 10 years to take that money out. Wow, 10 years. So, well, if it's a $25,000 account, okay, you bleed it out $2,500 a year, and that's not going to be too big of a deal. But what if it's a $2 million account? And you've got to get all the money out of the account within 10 years. And you can do it by taking a lump sum when you need it, anytime throughout that 10-year period. You can take monthly or annual distributions. You can wait the whole 10 years and let it grow, because hopefully the market's going to show some appreciation there for your account. So you can take it anytime, but by the end of that 10-year period, after the grantor has passed, you want to make sure that that account has been cleaned out, because the IRS is going to come after if you don't take care of that. So the stretch IRA is gone. It's replaced with the 10-year rule. Now spouses, they give you a little slack. If you have an account that is going to be subject to that 10-year rule, but you're a spouse, you can actually go ahead and just treat the account like it's your own. So you can just roll that into your own inherited IRA name, and at your point in life where you turn 72, or down the road it might be 75, because they're going to change the RMD age here pretty soon. But when you hit that RMD age, then you can take that money out over your lifetime and potentially let some of that money go down to your heirs as well. How about if you have a non-spousal IRA? Well, a non-spousal IRA is anybody who's not your spouse. You leave your money to your kids, let's say. And what if your kids are 30 years old? They've got to pull that money out within 10 years, and that could end up causing them to get bumped into a higher tax bracket. So again, that's that tax planning element that we're always thinking about in the background of our mind. If the kids are small, maybe you have a 17-year-old or a 5-year-old, during the period of time that they're a minor, until they reach age 18, they don't have to do anything with that money. It doesn't have the 10-year rule apply. But as soon as they turn 18, now they've got the 10-year clock ticking. So they've got to get the money out before they're 28. So those are just some of the little things that I just want to bring to people's minds, so that you're not just thinking about how your money impacts you today, but it's just those little feelers of estate thoughts of, I'm going to leave money to my kids. What's the best way of doing that? Tax-wise, how can I do this and make it not be a burden for them? We're wanting to let this be a good element by leaving money behind. So like Colleen was saying, are your kids prepared? Are they prepared to handle money? So I love to volunteer in the community, and I have been volunteering over at Divine Path. Does everybody know about Divine Path? Alrighty. Kenise is actually over at Divine Path, and they're teaching life skills to students with autism, And they have viticulture, they have food culinary experience and art, and they are teaching the students life skills. So they have asked me to come over and teach some personal finance classes to the kids. And so I've done that a couple of times, and this last time I went over, I thought, oh, how am I going to shake this up a little bit? And I went to Winco. I love going to Winco. I think that's the best grocery shopping around. You get good prices, and as a financial person, I'm always looking at prices. So I bought a box of Pop-Tarts and a box of Winco brand Pop-Tarts, faux Pop-Tarts. And so I don't even remember what the prices were now, but let's just say that Pop-Tarts were $3 and the Winco version was $2.25, so it's 75-cent per spread. I ended up cutting them up into little pieces, and we did a blind taste test over at Divine Path, and the students got really into that. They thought that was a lot of fun. So I said, okay, here each person has an opportunity to taste from each of these two piles. Tell me who likes which one best, and we're going to decide if the Pop-Tart brand or the Winco brand is the best flavoring. And it ended up that after the whole group had gone through, it was kind of on the fence. It was about a 50-50 split. And so anyway, I just like to have parents of young kids thinking about that and saying, well, what can I do to teach my kids some great money habits? Can I have a fun experiment like that my kids would get a kick out of participating in? I mean, who doesn't like trying Pop-Tarts, right? So have those little experiments and when they're young, and then next time you go to the grocery store, hey, let's go down the Pop-Tart aisle. Do you remember when we talked about this? And perhaps they chose the store brand. Look at this price difference here. So if we buy the Winco brand, you're going to save 75 cents. How about we buy the Winco brand today? I'm going to give you the 75 cents, and when we get home, you're going to put it in your savings account. Does that sound like a fair deal? And most kids are like, I'm going to get on board with this. This is kind of a fun idea. So I love to think about things that you can do with young kids. I also like to think about what you can do with your older kids, maybe your teenagers or your 20 or 40-year-old. And some of those ideas are, hey, attend workshops like this together as a family. Get together as a family. And when you get done and you leave here today, have a conversation about what you heard. Did you learn anything new today? Did anything spark your attention? Have those conversations. And even if the kids are bored listening, that's okay. If they start hearing things, it's gonna sink in over time that mom or dad, they are thinking about money. I need to have that on my radar too. Have a conversation over dinner. And again, doesn't matter if they're young or if they're older. You can do, like if your kids are older, think about maybe you have a vacation coming up. Tell them, hey, we have a budget of X amount of money. We're gonna go on a vacation. Here's the destination. Let's get online and let's look at the price of the hotels together. And let's see if you guys, if we're gonna be here and they have this neat thing that you can do and it costs extra money to go on this tour or see this exhibit or whatever, we've got to save a little bit of the budget for that opportunity to go do this fun thing. So let's look at the hotel prices and see how we can balance this so that we don't overspend. And if you give kids a task like that to join in on the conversation and have like a vested interest in what you're going to be doing with your money, they start to it starts to sink in a little bit. And so any types of conversations you can have with them about money, don't hesitate to do it. If you've noticed that they leave the lights on all of the time, bring out the electricity bill and say, hey, we're going to have a goal here. The electric bill was $200 last month. I want it down to $180. What can all of us do to improve the electric situation right now? Let's look around the house right now. Are there too many lights on at the moment? 1, 2, 3, go scatter, turn off all the lights, come back here, and then we're going to have dinner. And then The next night, same thing again. Hey, wait a minute, who left the lights on? Because we're going to scatter. Now, at the end of the month, if you've gotten your bill down a little bit, hopefully you've also changed your bulbs to LEDs in that period of time so that they actually see a difference on the electric bill. But bring the electric bill back out at the end of the month and show it to them again. Don't be afraid of having those conversations with your kids. Visit your professional circle together. When I was 25, my mom had me come over and she said, hey, I just want to let you know, I think I have early Alzheimer's. And she was scared. And she had done the books for our family, for my dad's business. She was a numbers girl. And she said, I can't balance my checking account anymore. The numbers are just like all jumbled up in my mind. And you know, when I was 25, that was a zillion years ago. You did your little balance sheet on a piece of paper. It wasn't Quicken doing it for you, or QuickBooks, or anything else like that. You actually did it manually, and she couldn't do it anymore. And I'm an only child, and so I said, well, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to get through this. We're going to figure this out. And so we ended up going to meet with their CPA. My dad wasn't interested in this stuff, but he tagged along just to hang out with the two of us girls. We went to the CPA. We talked to him. We wanted to know what could we do to improve their tax situation. From there, he sent us over to our estate attorney at that time. And we reviewed all of the documents, and lo and behold, I wasn't named as the successor trustee at that point. So like Colleen's saying, don't just put your trust documents on the shelf and forget about them. You have to readdress them, because over time, as people mature and can take on more financial responsibility and have more conversations with the right people, you need to make sure if a certain child or children have become of an age where they can have some responsibility, that they are included in those documents. So after the estate attorney, then we talked to the insurance company. Finally, we ended up with a financial planner, and that financial planner helped us with their investments. And back then when I was 25, I wasn't a financial planner, but I was doing financial planning elements. I didn't even know it. But it sparked my attention and my passion for it. And the financial advisor I was working with, she and I became really good friends, and I watched her career, and I thought finally one day, that's my path in life. And so that's when I became a financial advisor. And it's a blessing that this fell in my lap. It is, because, okay. It was an opportunity that I had with my parents to talk about money. And that was cool. And so now I talk about it with everybody else. And I try to get everybody else's family to be engaged and having the conversations. There's the great Easter egg hunt. If somebody passes away and nobody knows where the assets are, who's the estate attorney? I don't know. I've never met him before, and the kids are running around without a clue. They don't know who these people are. So go ahead and take them to these boring appointments with these very boring professional people that are in your professional circle. And even if they just are bored out of their minds, let them go. Let them at least know the names of the people that are really important in your financial world. And keep an emergency contact list. I'm going to send one to everybody who's got their name on the list that attended today. It's a simple thing. You fill this out. Who's your estate attorney? Who's your financial professional? Who's your tax man? Who are 3 trusted family members? Who are the trustees if you've got your estate documents already? Put this information on a piece of paper and slip it into the top drawer of your desk, someplace that somebody can find it. And then don't hesitate to tell your kids, hey, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, make it funny. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I just want you to know, go look in my desk drawer, and you're going to find some really important information so that you can let them have an idea how they're going to handle things without you anymore. Because there's just nothing worse than the kids at whatever age in life being left just not knowing how to go forward with the whole process. And you don't want something to get left behind and slip through. There are accounts that can just poof, go away because they get forgotten and people don't even know about them. and maybe they didn't show up on your taxes, maybe it wasn't a really big account or something, but hey, any amount of money that you're leaving behind to your kids, that would be really great to let them know about it. Let's see. So I am going to send you that quick sheet for the contacts. So go about it slow and steady. I'm also going to send you a link called Tale of Two Savers. When you will hear over and over again in my industry, why don't they teach this financial stuff in school? They don't teach it in school. I hear this all the time, over and over again. And they don't in grade school and in high school, but once you get to college, if you're interested in it, you can become a finance major. And they love to do the Tale of Two Savers project. It is about one person that starts saving their money for retirement at a very young age, and how if they get started with just a small amount and they regularly contribute to it, and maybe they do this for about 10 years and then they stop, they don't have the opportunity to continue saving at that point, their money is going to continue to grow if it's invested. Their money is going to be exposed to the market, it's going to be earning compound interest, and their account value is going to continue to grow. And then you've got a second person who is fresh out of college, they want to go live their life, they want a cool car, they want to go backpacking through Europe and all of that, and they're not saving anything. And finally, right before retirement, they're like, uh-oh, I better do something about that, and they start shoveling money into their retirement account. Well, there's limits on how much you can put into your retirement account. So between the two people, the person who saved a little bit and did it for a while and then did nothing else for the rest of their earning years, they tend to outperform the person that was shoveling larger amounts of money in at the end of retirement or end of their career, because they're not taking advantage of compound interest and letting the money earn money for them. So that's a fun story. Everyone loves to rewrite that in their own little way, and I've got a nice little grid that shows what the numbers look like. Read the story with your kids. It's actually an interesting story, and when you see the comparison of numbers, it's like, wow, why didn't somebody tell me this a long time ago? I wish my parents had told me to get started early, and I don't think they did, because back in the olden days, when I was young, olden days, people didn't talk about their money. It wasn't a conversation that people had around the dinner table. So I encourage people to have that conversation today. And then tune out the noise. We've heard a lot about the stock market recently. Like every morning, oh, the Dow's down. Oh, the Dow went up finally and rallied at the last minute yesterday. Oh, Dow's down again. And people hear this all the time. They get freaked out. Dow is 30 stocks. Don't get overly concerned about those 30 stocks. We've got so many more stocks out there. And as long as you're doing something within a diversified portfolio, don't freak out about it. You're not taking your money out today. That's retirement money, right? You're putting money into your investments, hoping that it's going to be there to support you in retirement when you no longer have an income stream. So tune out the noise and do what's considered to be the right thing by staying invested and continuing to contribute. For those of you that have had a 401k or a 403b, you'll notice they're encouraging you to invest on a monthly basis. That's because if you invest just a little bit every month, it tends to smooth out that bumpy, volatile ride that comes with the stock market. Because sometimes you're buying high and sometimes you're buying low. But we don't have a crystal ball, so don't get caught up in, what people are saying. Oh, GameStop's out there, and that's doing great. Well, the people that did that whole GameStop run, that turned into a fiasco for a lot of people. And so tune out the garbage noise and just stay invested with a regular, thoughtful, long-term growth plan, and you're going to be far ahead of the game. But these are conversations to please have with your kids. SSA.gov, can everybody see that up here? There's the website, SSA.gov is the Social Security Administration website. And who has a social security number that has gotten compromised? Anybody? Well, one person's admitting to it. The rest of you probably have had your social security number compromised in some way. And so go to ssa.gov, create your own login. If you do not create your own login, the hackers will create it for you, and they're going to take more advantage of you. So go to ssa.gov, create a login. You'll get to be able to review whether or not you're fully insured for Social Security down the road in retirement. And that's a whole different conversation, Social Security, but it's an important conversation. Anyway, this is something that you can do for your kids too, because by the time you're my age, yeah, your Social Security number's out there. Do it for your kids while they're young, and then you can protect them as well. Because again, if you set up the username and passwords, the hackers can't do it. They're going to get locked out. The whole account's going to get shut down for a month. Not shut down, but no access to anybody. If you've already set one up and then they try and come in and hack it, it is a government site. It's pretty sturdy, and so they will go ahead and shut that down, the access, for a month. There's some other things you can do to help protect yourself, protect your finances. You can do a credit freeze at Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. I suggest looking those up. Credit freeze is very simple. It just means that the bad people can't open up credit on your Social Security number. It doesn't affect the fact that you have a credit card and you want to go to the grocery store and swipe your card. That's fine. You can still continue to do that. You're not opening new credit. It stops people from opening credit in your name under your Social Security number. So please check that out. All three of them, they're the big three reporters. All three of them make that credit freeze very available. It's no longer a cost. They used to charge a fee for that, and there's no fee anymore because they're finally realizing, hey, this is important for a lot of people. There's also Unclaimed Property. What is it? Unclaimed Property, www.sco.ca.gov. And so several years ago, I got married. I sold my house. I moved into my husband's house. I now had a brand new name, and I had paid a bill and overpaid it and didn't realize I had overpaid at the time. I guess I had been billed twice for something. And so they were trying to send me a refund check, but I had already moved. For whatever reason, timing-wise, the mail didn't catch up with me at my new house. They didn't know my new name. And so it went into the great abyss of unclaimed property here in the state of California. I ended up finding that on the website, I had like $37 that was due to me. You fill out a form, you send it in, they send you a check. So, hey, check it out. And if you get $37 out of it, talk to your kids. Tell them, hey, this is what I did. Isn't this cool? Give them the knowledge so that they understand there are things out there that they can be watching too. So, does anybody have any questions for us today?
I just wanted to mention something you're talking about unclaimed property. Yeah. I called their office a year ago. That office has a total of $12 billion in their account. So that's another reason why it's also bank accounts. These banking institutions, these financial institutions have to put this money somewhere. And so they got to close out these accounts and they send it to the Department of Unclaimed Assets. So that's one of the reasons why updating all of your financial information is really important. The federal government has an account of unclaimed property of $58 billion. So again, it's a lot of times when you think about, like you mentioned the Great Easter Egg Hunt, like that's flipping a house looking for account statements. You didn't know that Great Aunt Sally had this IRA somewhere. It's got to be sent somewhere. So it's really, really important that we've got your you have your assets updated and that information can be found somewhere.
Absolutely. I'm sure a couple of you have heard a story, but when my grandmother passed away, it was not long after I had started helping my parents with their estate, so back when I was like 25, 26. And my mom had been helping my grandmother up until that point. So I was kind of helping my grandmother right before she passed away as well. but we hadn't gotten really involved in all of the finances yet. I was more focused on my parents. So my grandmother passed away. My mom and I went to her house to clear it out, to sell it. And we were going through the curio cabinet and we found this keychain. And so, okay, there's the front door key, there's a key to the car, the key to this, key to that. We found this one really ornate key, and I was 25 and I looked at it and I'm like, I can't imagine what that is. You know, does it fit here? No, that don't know. And my mom said, I think that is a safety deposit box key. And so she said, you know, Grandma used to bank down at Bank of America here down at the bottom of the hill. This is down in Oceanside. It's just down on Mission. The Bank of America is still there. So we went in there and we had our estate documents saying that I was now the trustee of all of this. And so I had the legal authority to walk into the bank on behalf of my mother and on behalf of my grandmother. And we said, hey, is this key to your vault here at Bank of America? Well, yes, it is. Oh, and you've got the documents? Wonderful, come on in. So I opened up my grandmother's lockbox at the safe, and sure enough, inside there was a necklace that she always wore. It had my picture in it. It's a beautiful gold necklace, her gold watch, and a statement from a bank that we didn't know about with $150,000 in it. Surprise! That was a neat surprise. My mom and I were like, woohoo! So anyway, that's the great Easter egg hunt. Have those conversations. Let your family know what's going on in your financial, estate, tax life. Bring them into the conversation. Don't let it be that big taboo conversation anymore. It's just not the right thing. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.
I have some information back there. I know Marianne does as well. I have a book on the table. It's called Wear Clean Underwear. It's a cheeky name, but what it is, it's written for parents about estate planning. And if you remember the books, Choose Your Own Adventure, that's how these books read. So they're real life stories, and you can see how different decisions play out to it all, you know, the ultimate scenario. And it's a really quick read. I can send you guys free electronic copies of those, but it's really eye-opening for parents, and it's a great tool as well. So please come check out what we've got, and thank you so much for coming, and I enjoyed meeting all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.